everybody, and welcome to a very special Fight and Focus. I'm Josh Shernoff, and today we have a special media roundtable ahead of this Sunday, March 6th, the AEW Revolution pay-per-view event that comes to you live on FITE at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. Check your app, see if it is available in your market on AEW Plus. You do not want to miss this. Let me introduce to you our esteemed panel here in this virtual roundtable. First, she's a wrestling content creator and a writer for Digital Spy, Stephanie Chase. Thank you for joining us, I believe, for your first ever Fight and Focus.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Yes, no, we're happy to have you here and happy to have back my good friend, Mr. Kenny McIntosh from Inside the Ropes. Kenny, thank you for being here again on Fight and Focus.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be had, as Bobby Heenan used to say.
Yes, that is very, very true. And of course, the editor from Talk Sports, Alex McCarthy. Is this I think this is the first time you and I have ever worked together. Have you been on a Fight and Focus before?
I did one for boxing, but it's my first one for wrestling, right?
Okay.
So Nick Aldis was the host. When
I think I emceed that. Now I'm thinking about it. Yes. Okay. So I knew you, but you know, that's the thing in wrestling, and I always find this whenever you bump into somebody, and all of you have bumped into many wrestling personalities that I'm sure you've never met before. And for me, I always would look at them for the first time and go, have we met, or have I just been watching you on TV for 20 years every single week? So it's sometimes confusing. But enough about that. We are here to talk all things AEW Revolution. Man, what a stacked card this is. It is probably the best looking card I think we've seen in a while, and that says a lot because I think AEW always puts on really good shows. I think we can go through the card now one by one, get opinions on everything, but right before we do that, because again, I do want to talk about the buildup. There's been criticisms in the past with other promotions that they haven't spent enough time building up to a big event. I've never seen that with AEW. I think AEW always does a great job really building and focusing to the event. I think part of that is the fact that they have so much time because they only have a handful of events a year. Alex, we'll start with you. We'll go backwards now. How have you felt so far about the pacing of the buildup, and do you think that AEW has been putting a proper amount of emphasis on this card thus far?
I mean, I think it's built to a great crescendo with their top stories, right? Like, I don't think there's anything I'm more excited about in wrestling right now than the Daniel Bryan, John Moxley story. For me, that's so tantalizing what they could do with that, right? Like, is there going to be this kind of break off stable that Bryan has talked about in the past, and will Moxley actually be a part of that? Yeah, I hope that's the case, but I'm not getting my hopes up. But I still think the way they've told that story, you know, Bryan facing people, and then, you know, the promos that have followed that, I feel that's got perfectly to where we are right now. Same with MJF and CM Punk. They've already had a match, right? And it's kind of, the story's been being told for a while, but still kind of leading to this dog collar match, which I can't say is in my top arsenal of wrestling matches, where I'm like, oh yeah, I really hope this leads to a dog collar match. But still, I feel like the way they've done this story, you know, you talked about those nods. Of course, CM Punk has previous with Raven, I believe. It's one of them where I actually feel like, oh, this has arrived at a great time. And the wrinkle that MJF gave us last week, which was just a masterclass, by the way, in that promo. Yeah. Again, it's taken it to a different level, a different place where I want to see it. I've got those two so squarely in my mind that when you look up and down the card, you're like, wow, like Thunder Rosa, Britt Baker too. Like there's so much there that I can get myself amped up for and pumped for that. Man, I've got no problems with the build whatsoever. I get it. There's, you know, I think there's 11 matches on the on if I'm not mistaken.
Counting the two, there's 2 buy-in pre-show matches,
right?
But yeah,
that's a lot.
Yes,
that's a lot to kind of go, you know what? Did they give everything a proper focus? But I feel like all of the top matches have definitely got great stories behind them. That's, to be honest, that's what attracts me to AEW more than anything else.
Sure. So one match that you didn't mention, and Kenny, I'll let you pick this one up, is the world title match, and I think that speaks to the quality of this entire show, this entire card. Do you feel that the world title, which I believe has been announced, will in fact be the main event, as I believe it should always be the main event? Do you think the world title is kind of not it's kind of not fallen by the wayside, but right now there's so much interesting stuff going on in these other, whether it's MJF and CM Punk or Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson, either of them, and John Moxley, of course, Chris Jericho, Eddie Kingston. We'll talk about all of these, but do you feel like this Hangman Page as AEW champion, where do you feel like he is kind of fit into all of this? Do you think that I mean, looking at it right now, where do you think his championship reign is going? If it ended this Sunday, where do you think it stacks up?
I had so many nice things planned to say, and you've cornered me into one specific thing that I have to say exactly what I think about this specific thing. I think the build to Revolution has been great, and there's so many good matches. The only thing I'm kind of a little bit scratching my head is, Adam Cole had this feud with Orange Cassidy, and then he lost to him. And that was kind of the beginning of now him and Adam Page are facing off. And I think part of the thing that's maybe a shame for the Cole and Page match is there's not as much intense rivalry there as there is with Punk and MJF or Danielson and Moxley. I try so hard there to not say Daniel Bryan. So, but I think that it's just one of those things where on this particular pay-per-view, the world title match is not the top match on the show. But I think that it's still a big match. I think getting a win over Adam Cole is a huge deal. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, the thing is, coming off of the Bryan Danielson series, that's so epic that the next thing you do is probably going to, not feel as big as what he just did. But I think that he's going to get a big win on Sunday, Adam Page, and, go on to the next pay-per-view. But I'm hoping that after this pay-per-view, Hangman Page is going to be more entrenched in a kind of intense rivalry, get into Double or Nothing. Because, if you look at Punk and MJF, for example, the MJF promo he cut last week, it was almost like a superhero movie. If you've seen Joker with Joaquin Phoenix, it's like seeing how Arthur becomes the Joker.
It was the origin story,
how Max became MJF, and it's like, that's what you want. And then for Punk to come out and say, I had a picture with Steve Austin. You don't see me blaming him when he left. I was like, it's so good.
There's so many layers. Many layers.
So I think... Yeah. So I think Cole and Page, I think, is good, but it's just because the other stuff is great that I think that's maybe not as much. I think Tony Khan's doing the right thing by putting it on last on the pay-per-view, and that's the smart thing to do. It constantly makes the world title feel like the biggest prize in the company. So I think he's making the right call with that one.
Yeah, and let's not sleep on the fact that Adam Cole and Hangman Page could steal the show any night. So... you're putting that on last. There's all of these grudge matches, all of these emotional feuds going on. But we then have the opportunity to sit back at the end of the night and watch possibly the best wrestling match of the night, which is not going to be easy for them to achieve because, man, what an incredible card. Stephanie, I wanted to ask you your feelings on this as well. I could throw the softball at you since I made Kenny have to answer the difficult stuff there, but all the questions that I just asked the gentleman before to you, what do you think as far as the build up? What do you think as far as some great points that both men brought up here, which is we have these intense emotional feuds going on. Do you think that it's almost too much? 11 matches on the card, and such a stupid thing to complain about, right? Like, oh, they've given us way too much good stuff. But do you think that we have a risk that by the time we get to the dog collar match, we're emotionally exhausted? Where do you stand on the whole thing?
I don't believe the world title always has to go on last, but if you ask me what the card order should be, I would answer by saying, tell me the finishes of the matches first, okay? And then I'll put the card in order. So that's how I feel. I feel that when it's going to be so hard to follow the MJF CM Punk dog collar match, no matter what happens, I think that's going to be a really heavy one. So I was there last night. And I saw what happened to CM Punk up close, and I'm still not recovered from that at all. So I don't know what it's going to be like, but I'm there on Sunday and actually seeing that full match, because if that's what happened on Dynamite, I can't even imagine what that's going to be like. But as far as the build in general, you know, it's been really good. They only have 4 pay-per-views a year, and I think they do a really good job of spacing things out well. They put the special shows in between. And sometimes you're getting like kind of close to pay-per-view and you think, oh, they haven't really set the card in stone yet. But then it just suddenly ramps up in a really nice way. Like you got something like MJF and CM Punk. And I was there as well when that feud pretty much started at the Thanksgiving Dynamite. So now here we are in March and we're getting this second match. And I think it's really good to always have one like quite long form story going on, a bit like what MJF previously did with Jericho. Like I really enjoy that. But as far as everything on the card, there's some matches like Moxley and Danielson and Jericho and Kingston and even Britt and Thunder Rosa that, yeah, there's a lot going on and a lot, you know, going into them. And then there are some matches that aren't as intense with the focus, but I still think that's good. It's going to be a long card, but it's full of really high quality matches, so we can't complain at all.
Yeah, and there's going to be that ebb and flow of you need some of those matches that you're, as I mentioned before, being emotionally exhausted. You need those let me up matches. You need those where somebody can just be like, okay, I'm just going to relax a little bit. Okay, they're having a wrestling match. It's a good match. But all right, now we're back to that next one that I'm really, really excited about. And there's a place for that and a purpose for that. So yeah, I'm not concerned.
You need Hook to destroy QT Marshall. That's what you need.
Well, let's jump right into that then. Let's start with the buy-in. It looks like we have Hook versus QT Marshall, however he prefers to be for it to be pronounced. Man, first let's go, Stephanie. We'll start with you. Opinions
Thank
and
you.
thoughts on Well, opinions opinions and thoughts on Hook.
Hook is amazing. Hook is absolutely amazing. He's the coolest guy in wrestling ever. He's the first wrestler ever to look modern, cool, of the moment, stylish, everything. He is just the man. And I'm very excited for him and QT because I, quite a while ago, interviewed QT. And this was before Hook had ever wrestled, when he was just a guy chewing gum. And because I knew QT was a trainer, I said to him, can you tell me what Hook's like in the ring? Like, what's Hook's training like? And he basically said, I trained him for a little bit, and then his dad pulled him out of my training and decided he wanted to do it himself. And it was a bit like, ooh, okay. And then this has all come up on TV, and I'm sitting back going, oh, This is a real one. This is a real deep feud that's going on here between these two. So I think Hook is just going to destroy him.
Yeah, it's incredible. Kenny, I know you and I are I think we're relatively the same age. Maybe I'm just making myself younger. But were you a Taz ECW Taz fan?
I tended to more watch WWF, and I remember when Taz debuted at sort of Rumble 2000, being like, oh my God, I knew who he was, obviously. I can't quite believe that Taz procreated Hook. I don't quite know how that works. I'm still trying to figure it out, but more, I mean, Hook's mum, I mean, she must be a model because
phenomenal.
So they've got Hook. And then, look.
Are you suggesting that Taz is not a handsome man?
No, he is. But I mean, you know, look, I'm not going to go there. But the thing is,
Taz is going to be next time he sees you. He's going to chew you out.
As a gay man, I can tell you, Hook is going to have a very big following, like a very big following. Like he is. I mean, I'm too old, right? So I'm not getting involved in any of that stuff. Twinks are not my game anymore, but he is absolutely going to have a lot of interest. And the thing is, I saw not too long ago that somebody had posted like lacrosse photos of him when he was like just like playing lacrosse. It's like watching a movie where like Zac Efron at the beginning is like just the jock guy, and then by the end of the night, he's like a party animal. Like Hook has been transformed. It's like something's happened to him. But he's the coolest guy in wrestling. Mm-hmm. He is every time he has a match. I mean, everybody wants to see him, and I think they're being really clever with how they're only giving you a little bit of Hook and how he gets the hair to stay in that position.
Man, he's got a head of hair on him.
You know, hairspray and Jesus. That must be what does it for him.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, I did a Fight and Focus with Chris Jericho leading up to this event, available now right here on Fight. And I actually asked Chris Jericho about how he got his hair to stand up in back in like 2008, 9, and 10, like that whole time period, because didn't work for me when I wanted to look like that. And I said, you know what? I don't know. Anyone's ever asked him this, but I'm going to ask him. So now you've just planted that seed. I don't know which of us is going to get there first, but I feel like of the four of us here today, whoever has the opportunity to talk to Hook next has to ask him what's going on with that hair.
Josh, you and I are the two oldest people here, right? And I don't know about you, but I look at Hook and I just see regret that I didn't do more with my life sooner. Do you know what I mean? He's just a reminder that I drank it all away in my 20s.
I look at him and I lie to myself and go, yeah, that's what I looked like when I was his age. No, the guy, something that I thought, and Alex will shift to you on this and share your opinion. When Hook first debuted, I tweeted something out to my massive following, and I what I said was what I thought was so refreshing and so cool. I've never seen a second generation wrestler who managed to embody their father, managed to have the same move set as their father, and in one way you could look at them and go, oh man, they are definitely the second coming of their father, but at the same time go, they could not be more polar opposite. Nothing about these people are similar, but everything about them is similar. Like, if that makes any sense. That has continued to be my feeling on Hook. I was a huge Taz fan back in the day. Hook today is really nothing like what Taz was in his prime. But at the same time, he's also there as a part of him that you are engaged in the same way that I was with Taz. Have you felt the same way? What are your thoughts on Hook?
Yeah, he's like a walking paradox, right? Like,
right, yeah.
All the things that make him great. Steph will tell you we are the presidents of a few fan clubs in AEW, and Hook and Wardlow are probably the two chief ones. But for Hook, I mean, a lot of the things you just touched on there for me. When I watched his debut, like as soon as his music hit, I was like, man, yeah, that music fits him great. Right? Like just the way he sauntered to the ring, then how explosive and kind of dominant he is in the ring, which at first glance, before I'd ever watched him, I did not expect. No. I hoped he had hallmarks of Taz, but I didn't think he was going to be, a suplexing machine kind of ragdolling talent.
Yeah.
It was just like I was taken by surprise, and his debut was absolutely perfect in my opinion. From the presentation, his attitude, how he worked, and like I said, the music and everything. Like I was like, oh my God, like a star is born. But Steph hit the nail on the head more than anything else. He's cool. He's really cool. He's handsome, but he's an asshole, right? But like in the same endearing way that The Rock was. I'm not making a direct comparison.
No, but I completely understand what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying? In that time frame, that's kind of everyone was like, "Oh, The Rock is so cool!" Like, and despite WWE's best efforts down the years, you can't book cool, right? You can't cool Kyle O'Reilly. You can't do that, okay? It's something that someone either has or they don't, and Hook just has it. He has it in spades, man. Yeah. So I think what they're doing right now with him and this kind of like slow roll is great. We're getting little bits, as Kenny said, and we're peeling back the layers of Hook, but we're not peeling them back too much, right? That's kind of like the mystery of Hook is almost part of his essence. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he does at the pay-per-view, because I just feel like QT Marshall will be, you could argue it's his highest profile scalp yet, but it will just be a showcase for Hook. Make no mistake about it.
And Kenny, we actually we skipped over your. I think we all kind of know what you think's going to happen in this match, but I want to give you the opportunity. Of course, QT Marshall defeats him in seconds, right?
There is more chance of Stone Cold Steve Austin confronting Hangman Adam Page at the end of the show to set up a match in next week's Dynamite than there is of QT Marshall getting a win here. As there should be, because Hook is, of course, going to demolish him.
Yeah.
Maybe QT will get a little bit more in than Fuego del Sol or Bear Bronson, but yeah, like Alex said, this is going to be a Hook showcase.
So next up, we have Chris Statlander versus legit Laila Hersh. Man, you talk about two completely opposites as far as their presentation in the ring, but man, both just quality wrestlers in their own right. Stephanie, we'll start with you. How do you feel going into this? Laila Hersh to me is somebody that I don't know if maybe I'm just so fascinated because of how small she is and how powerful she is at the same time. But I think what an incredible athlete. And Chris Statlander, I think, has really not moved past, but has, in the beginning, it was like this alien thing. We're kind of like, okay, it's fun. But now, you're able to take her seriously while still seeing these aspects of, the creativity and the character. What are you most looking forward to in this match, and how have you been impressed with both of these women?
Yeah, I've always really liked Chris Statlander, and I like it more that she is moving away from the full-on alien character. I actually think teaming her with the Best Friends has been very good because it's kept her kind of always in profile, even if she's not got a feud of her own. And this feud itself, I think in the beginning, it seemed a little bit random because there was a lot of stuff going on in dark, and then they suddenly started referencing it on their main TV, and I think a lot of people were a bit confused or thrown off by it. But then at the same time, it was nice to see a feud that did not involve either Britt Baker or Jade Cargill or the two women's titles actually happening. So that was really cool. I think it turned the corner when Chris Statlander said her adoption line at Laila Hersh. I think that really got people's attention. And we're like, whoa, okay. And that started the real investment in this one. And Laila's another she's developed really well. I think she's so unique, like a unique look and a unique style. She's kind of reminds me a little bit of Taz that we were just talking about, like her style as well, like small, but very, very powerful. So I think it's great that these two are getting a match, even if it is on the pre-show. And I think that this one will be Laila winning to kind of elevate her a little bit because Chris has been in the title picture before, and I think it's time to get another face kind of in that realm.
Okay, interesting. Kenny, do you share the same sentiment there?
Yeah, I don't want to keep going. Stephanie made a great point, but she did. So, and Alex, so I'm just going to keep referencing the other people. But
we'll let Alex go in front of you next time. So hopefully he doesn't make a good point, and you can. He
can do the sucking up. No, but one of the things a few months ago I was kind of like a bit frustrated was I was like, Chris Statlander, is she an alien? Is she not? What's going on? It kind of felt a little bit half pregnant, and I think they have went away from that because it's better. I mean, there's a little alien joke there, but I think that was better for her. I think it's now she's going to go further because she's not kind of got the constraint of how would an alien react to this kind of thing. So I thought the promo last night, the kind of video package on Dynamite was excellent. For people who don't watch Dark or don't really know the story, I think immediately in 2 minutes they got you thinking, I need to see this match. And just little things like Laila Hersh saying, "Why am I talking to the camera?" Great. Why should she be standing talking to a camera when she wants to just beat up Chris Statlander? So I think it being on the buy-in's good as well. It's not going to, have to follow the dog collar match or anything. So I think they're in a good position. I think Laila Hersh is going to take this one to hopefully continue this.
Yeah, and I think also, being in the buy-in and being in the same, if you call the buy-in its own show, right, as a pre-show, but being in there with QT and Hook, we're not expecting a particularly long match out of QT and Hook, and we are expecting everybody go crazy for Hook. Everyone's excited, and then that match is over. In a lot of ways, these women are really setting the pace. You know, that pre-show is what gets you going. I mean, if that falls flat, people are kind of down when the pay-per-view starts, right? So they're in a great spot. I think that there's so much more light being shined on this match now than it would be if they were match 4 on the main card. You know, so I think that that's important also to look at, that they're getting this great opportunity there, and deservedly so. Alex, what are your thoughts on this? Who do you have winning this match, and just the match in general and the way it's been presented?
Well, I mean, first of all, I love like a technical wrestling machine. You know, Kurt Angle, Chad Gable, the list goes on. Laila Hersh is my kind of style, so I've enjoyed watching a lot of her, and I think she's blossomed quite well as a heel as well, as those characters tend to do, because they can be more vicious.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, the Chris Statlander line, I wasn't crazy about it at the time. I was like, where am I meant to go with this? Like, but then I often think that wrestling fans overthink stuff like that as well. You know, where, you know, online people just go like, "Oh, what the hell?" But you know,
wrestling
if a heel
fans
said that,
overthinking something.
I know.
Never
But
seen that before.
Even if Chris was a heel at that, I'd have been like, "Whoa!"
Yeah.
So, you know,
no, it was unexpected for sure.
It
but,
sure was.
But we're talking about it.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, I don't mind. It has added some heat to the program, but I just think Laila needs the win here, because that's, you know, she's literally only turned in the past month or so. So you need to kind of give her off on the right foot with this new character change. And yeah, Chris has already kind of built a little bit of a standing in the company, as we mentioned, had the world title shot. And I do think being with best friends has kind of helped, you know, deflect from having to explain what an alien is, right? Like, she's kind of part of that world now and got that rub where people were kind of like, oh, yeah, that's cool.
She's kind of out there doing her thing.
Yeah, exactly. I think Laila needs the win, and I think she'll get it.
I promised Kenny that we would go to you first in this next round here, so we're gonna stick with you, Alex. We have Ty Conti challenging for the TBS championship against Jade Cargill. Of course, will be led to the ring by Smart Mark Sterling. First of all, I've been incredibly impressed with Jade Cargill. I think she was thrown into this high-profile spot as though this major player from another promotion had been signed, and this, like, you know, and she's only had a handful of matches. You know, she's really not hasn't been in the business that long. And I'm so impressed with her presentation. But what do you think? Do you think it's time? Do you think Ty Conti is also absolutely on the rise? Who do you have in this? What are you looking forward to out of this match?
No chance. Jade Cargill will be winning this match. It's one of them. I mean, I've been on the Jade Cargill train from the beginning. And when I was tweeting, like, okay, if you turned on the TV and you let's say you're a lapsed wrestling fan, or you don't even know wrestling, the moment you lay eyes on Jade Cargill, you're like, who the hell is that?
Yep.
Right? She looks like a bona fide
silver
superstar.
hair, green hair, doesn't matter. You're still tuned.
She looks $1 million. She does. Yeah. And I feel like a lot of people have started to come around to that now. When I would tweet praise for her in the beginning, you know, you'd get a myriad of tweets like, oh, she's still green, or like people just kind of wanting to resist. But I'm telling you, she I said it at the time, and I'm still saying it now. She deserves the Brock Lesnar-esque push from where his maiden run in WWE. She's that special to me. And the fact that she says she's been training with Bryan Danielson, like, Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
I can think of worse people, right?
Exactly. Like, she's already walking money, looks great. If she can work it like that too, then oh my word. You know, I love Ty Conti. I think she's come on a lot since leaving NXT and joining AEW. Has a great pumpney that I enjoy richly. But I don't know, man. I just feel like it's all about Jade. I'm afraid it is. I can't see anyone at this moment in time stopping the Jade train, nor should they. She is where the money is at for AEW.
Jade Cargill is, I had the opportunity to be in the same room as her when she first walked into the room. They always talk about those people that just, you know, like there's like a presence about them. She carries herself like a star, and, you know, dress for the job you want, right? That's something I think we were talking about off air, but that's a callback to something none of you saw. That's always good. But that's, she's really, you know, she looks the part, and she's putting in the time to get to being almost like her skill level every week is getting closer and closer to how you expect her to be based off of her look. So I've been really impressed. Kenny, I hope he didn't make any good points there.
No, he didn't. It's fine.
Okay.
We can move on. I mean, the thing is this going to be the match of the night? No, it's not. But that's not what it's about. It's there to showcase two people who are on the rise. You know, Ty Conti, she won Most Improved of the Year in Inside the Ropes magazine this past year because she really did put in the work and the effort. And for Jade, it's like, you know, she started wrestling during, you know, COVID. So she couldn't go and do indie shows. She couldn't get her name out there. And now she's such a big name that you can't really send Jade Cargill to an indie show in Indiana and have her job in the opening match to their women's champion. So she's kind of, you know, her hands are tied. But for me, and I know I'm in the minority here, I don't really care if somebody can have a good wrestling match. If they have a character that can hook me in, that's the first thing that hooks me. She can have a good wrestling match. Now, obviously, it's going to be touch and go because she's not got a lot of experience. But in the 90s, one of my favorites, and I say this with no irony, was Psycho Sid. I love Psycho Sid. I think he is one of the best. If you go back and watch when he hits Jose Lothario with a camera in Madison Square Garden and powerbombs Shawn Michaels, I mean, it was just amazing. But, you know, Stephanie and I have both got a love of drag. And Jade Cargill kind of, I feel like she could walk onto the stage in RuPaul's Drag Race tomorrow and just win the challenge, you know, without having ever seen the show. Just walk on, you know, and she would get it because she knows how to present herself. You know, I think somebody must have made some sort of jab at her on Twitter, and she ended up doing the Riddler costume out of it and did that whole look. And I'm like, I mean, she knows exactly what she's not taking it too seriously. She's using these little barbs to further herself. So I think that she's going to get another decisive victory. And, you know, if she is getting trained by Bryan Danielson, then keep that up. And I'm sure before we know it, we'll see her kind of trying to take Britt Baker down at some point.
Stephanie, what are your thoughts on both of these competitors and the match as a whole? And I guess, weigh in on Jade Cargill. What are you on the Jade train, as it was referred to as?
Oh, yes, it's the money train. As Jade said, she is green like money. I totally agree with Kenny. I don't care that she's green at all. She's fantastic. She has such a presence, and they're using her correctly. So that's all you need. Like, they're making an absolute superstar out of her. I think it's a really great lesson in how to build a star, what they have done with Jade Cargill, someone who had no wrestling experience before this. It's not, you know, send you down to a developmental to develop for 10 years and then bring you up when you're 35 and then cut you 6 months later because you're not a star. Like, Jade has just completely been exactly what she should be, this kind of Goldberg-esque woman just running through the division. Ty is great, but this feels very like Ty at Full Gear. She's in a championship match that she has no chance of winning. And, you know, she's worked very hard. She deserves to get Most Improved awards, but this is all about Jade.
Well, next up, we've got a 6-man tag. It is AHFO, Andrade El Idolo, Isaiah Cassidy, and Matt Hardy versus Darby Allin, Sammy Guevara, who, of course, is the TNT champion, and the Icon Sting. On paper, it almost looks like, to me, and Stephanie, we'll start with you, it almost looks like you took a bunch of names from the roster and mixed them all together and pulled them out. But at the same time, sometimes the most bizarre ingredients, when combined, create magic. So what are your thoughts on this match? This kind of weird relationship with Andrade and Matt Hardy and the whole crew there. Of course, you've seen Isaiah Cassidy and Matt Hardy kind of have their issues. Where are you seeing this, and does this feel does it feel special considering who's involved in it?
I think it's a great lineup of wrestlers involved here. However, since the day they reformed, the Hardy family office has been my least favorite thing in AEW. But now I feel like we're at this crossroads where it's clearly coming to an end. Clearly, Matt is awaiting the arrival of his brother, and Andrade is taking over the family office and private party. So that's the most I've been intrigued in the Hardy family office for the whole run. Like, just the kind of death of them that we're seeing now is the most interesting they've been for me. And then on the other side, so I'm a huge Sting fan. I've been a Sting fan since I was a child. I always want to see Sting, so I'm never going to complain about him wrestling. I will say, though, I'm also a huge supporter of Sammy Guevara, and I don't know why. Per Sammy left a faction, pretty much he left his jacket in the ring to now be in a match in the pay-per-view where he's had to find 2 other friends.
Yeah.
I just don't understand that, because Sammy, I felt when he had his first TNT title run, I was like, come on, Sammy, like, don't be held back by being in the inner circle. I think he kind of was. And then he ended up in the America's Top Team feud, and that was great. And then he walked away from the inner circle, and I think he's been doing a really good job, despite being sucked into the Cody weirdness at the beginning of the year. And now, when it came to his pay-per-view match, I thought, okay, surely he's getting a solo pay-per-view match this time around. No, he's teaming with 2 lads that he just, became friends with a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And now I'm just like, were you really any worse off when you were in the inner circle? Like that's just kind of like the connection to that storyline just bothers me. But I really want to see the match. Like I want to see Sammy in the ring teaming with Sting. I want that for him. But at the same time, I really did want a solo match for him on the pay-per-view.
I think, and Kenny, we'll go to you next. I think there's some, unfortunately for you, Kenny, Stephanie made some great points there. I think like you look at Sammy Guevara. He is the TNT champion. In a lot of ways, this is reminiscent of many times you go, oh, the Intercontinental champion isn't why are they in this 6-man tag? That title should be represented. At the same time, man, how can you deny the rub of being in the ring with Sting and being across the ring from a Matt Hardy? So there is so much value to it. And I mean, look, we saw him just a couple of weeks when he regained those titles in that ladder match against He Who Shall Not Be Named. It was. I mean, Sammy Guevara is a proven commodity. Looking at you said about how there's obviously the Hardy family office is breaking up and Andrade is going to take over Private Party. To me, just to give my opinion here, and then Kenny, I'd love to know your opinion on this whole matter. To me, I don't want to see Andrade take over Private Party. I want Private Party to go be Private Party. I think they're great.
I think,
and they have not fit in at all to any of this. It doesn't make any sense. They're Private Party. Go do your own thing.
Yeah. I think it's funny because Stephanie is unabashedly very, very pro AEW, and she had a lot to say there. So you can only imagine how much I'm feeling about certain things. AEW do a lot of things right, and Dynamite is by far my favorite wrestling show of the week. But I feel like we have got all of AEW's worst booking and put it into one match because, so you've got the Inner Circle, who some weeks are together, some weeks are not. We had the Grand Slam show in New York where Jericho got beat up by American Top Team, and then Santana and Ortiz were on the next match,
and they didn't come out. Thank you. I was there that night, and I'm like, I know they're here. Like, what's going on? Where are they?
And I'm sure Santana and Ortiz were like, do we really have to go on after that? So like the whole Inner Circle thing is kind of on and off, and that's strange. Then you've got Sammy, who's got 2 belts. I don't know why he still has 2 belts.
I think Razor Ramon won
fun. Well, I mean, but he's the undisputed. Keep one. Walk with that. So Stephanie made a great point I didn't even think of. He lays jacket down. So is he still in the Inner Circle? Is he not? Then you've got the Hardy family office. Jesus Christ. I mean, I don't know why they're together. None of it makes any sense. Andrade was with Jose, then he was with Chavo, now he's with Matt Hardy. Now he's going to be buying Private Party. It's just a lot of stuff going on, and none of it seems to. We don't really seem to know where any of it's going. In saying that, though, I do think the 6-man is going to be fun, and I think it's a good way to. Sometimes you're just on the card and that's it. But I think that going forward, there needs to be more cohesion with. If you were telling the Inner Circle's story, for example, how do you explain these kind of little things that don't really add up? So I'm hoping that they maybe do it at some point. But I think the match will be fun, and it's always great to see Darby and his dad Sting at ringside. Having a match.
I thought it was his uncle.
Yeah, his uncle Sting. And look, Matt Hardy's been behaving very erratically.
Yes,
like another Hardy family member apparently, which I'm sure is going to lead to us seeing them back together at some point. So, and I'm with you, Joe. I think Private Party should be on their own.
Yeah.
And Andrade, I don't know why Andrade's not working as much as we'd hoped that he would. I don't know what the answer is. Maybe Alex has got the answer.
Yeah, Alex, do you have the answer there? Because I agree with everything that both Stephanie and Kenny are saying. I think that this match, and again, I think it's going to be great. Tune in, check it out. But I think that this match is probably kind of this combination of all of the things that weren't exactly firing on all cylinders, right? So they kind of just put it all together. Let's see what happens with it. But what do you think's going to happen, and what are your feelings on this entire debacle of Sammy Guevara, and we're going to talk about the Inner Circle in a bit, because I have some feelings on that, and I think you guys are going to share in those opinions. But what are your thoughts, Alex?
I think the match will be fun. You look at the 6 people that are in it. I know it's going to be entertaining, bell to bell. But yeah, how we got here is, I mean, like Steph said it earlier, when Sammy and he's needed to go look for friends, Santana and Ortiz were there. I mean, and they've done this weird circular thing with them where they've made up with Jericho now. I saw on Dynamite, so that was awful. What? Like, they haven't not even done with the Kingston story yet, so I'm not sure what's going on there. But Hager's hardly ever there, so it's like, what is the Inner Circle most weeks? It's it's a weird thing. Sammy's obviously broken away.
Would you have preferred? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I guess I do mean to interrupt because I did it, but. But I apologize for my rudeness anyway, as I plow right through. Do you think that if the Inner Circle, because jumping ahead just a bit, I think this is the end of the Inner Circle this on Sunday night. I think we're going to see the end of it, in my opinion. But do you think that this slow burn made sense, or do you think it's kind of like now when the Inner Circle breaks up officially, we're all kind of left going like, well, just like what we're saying, like, well, did they break up? I mean, didn't Sammy already leave? Like, are they still a thing? We're not entirely sure. Have they been a thing for the last year? Like, we don't really know. So what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, if this is the end of them, I think they're late to the party. You might as well have just let MJF destroy them, right? Would have done a lot more for him.
Sure.
If that was, if that was what you were going to do. All they've done is elongate it for what, Jericho to do this with Eddie Kingston. I don't know how much you needed the Inner Circle to be part of that story. I get it, Santana and Ortiz and the history of Eddie, so I understand why they've linked that in there. But again, the Inner Circle doesn't actually need to be wholesome for that to be the case. The history would be right there anyway. But alas, we'll get on to Jericho later. With Sammy in this situation, he is quite clearly the breakout star of the Inner Circle, and I do think as a babyface, he's really asserted himself over the past however many months. But falling in here with Darby and Sting, it really is just a case of getting him on the card. Again, Steph hit the nail on the head, and the first thing I thought when you come onto this topic, they are just killing time. Matt Hardy is just waiting for Jeff to come to the company. Quite clearly, we all know the Hardy reunion's going to happen. Mm-hmm. His stable has been horrendous, pretty much. Like, no, what have they done? And I'm a big fan of those who are involved. It's just the story's just not good. I was half invested when he was trying to screw over Hangman Page out of a payday, and and he was trying to get people money out of their contracts, but it just hasn't done anything for anyone or gone anywhere. So, yeah, I feel like this is one stable that's coming to a close, 3 people that the company really values on the other side. It's a no-brainer, really. Baby faces win the day. Thank you very much.
And the thing to remember about this, and then we'll move on from this match. You find a weak link in these 6 men. You can't. You can find a weak link in the booking, in the story, and maybe even in character presentation at this moment. But you can't find a weak link in the ring. Even Sting still going strong. So I think it's going to be a really good match. And speaking,
can I just say one thing before we move on?
You may.
Just because I want to add to Alex and Stephanie's points. If you look at the Hardy family office, right, you've got Angelico and Jack Evans. Say they're a cheeseburger, right? You like a cheeseburger. Then you've got Private Party, who are a strawberry yogurt. And then you've got Matt Hardy, who's like, what we call him, a good aftershave. They're all nice. I don't want them together.
Where is this going?
Just they're a mishmash of things that don't work.
Three things that are beloved and appreciated on their own.
For some reason, you say we're going to chuck Andrade in there as well. Like, I don't know what he is, a PS5. Who the hell knows? He just got put in the mix for no reason, really.
But it's true. That's the analogy is incredible.
The Hardy family office is so good. Like Andrade would be great to add to that. You'd go keep, especially if it's ended. But anyway. Just want to add that little analogy that made no sense.
I loved it. No, but it actually, while it made no sense, it actually made perfect sense at the same time. Jurassic Express, they are the AEW Tag Team Champions. Of course, it's Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus versus Red Dragons, Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly versus the Young Bucks. Who's walking out champion here? Obviously, there's always an opportunity for someone to defeat someone who's not the champion for the title to change hands. That opportunity is there. Do we think that this is a time to say, hey, the Red Dragon, they're who we're putting our money behind? Or are we going to see the do you see this, and Stephanie, we'll start with you. Do you see this as an opportunity to showcase Jurassic Express, or do you see this as an opportunity to really build a feud between Red Dragon and the Young Bucks?
So I'm going to try and make some bad points. I think that with the AEW Tag Team titles, I really think if they're not in the Young Bucks orbit, they don't really work or get stories. And I think the Lucha Bros had a title reign that was kind of nothing, and I think this is very much like that as well. This is absolutely not the tag team match I would have booked for this pay-per-view, and I guess we'll get on to it more when we talk about Jericho's match, but I think that it should have been just Santana and Ortiz versus Jurassic Express. Really, I don't understand that whole storyline if they're not the ones challenging. And but I'll get into it during Jericho's match. And then because also the Young Bucks and Red Dragon, that's a match / feud that you can just have. Like Jurassic Express, who are the tag team champions, feel like the spare part in this match. It's all about the Young Bucks and Red Dragon. So I think that at the end of the day, it's going to be Red Dragon winning the titles so that the Young Bucks don't have another reign, but so that the tag titles are kept in the Young Bucks orbit, close enough to them, but not on them.
Very interesting. Kenny, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think good points again by Stephanie, as always. But, to be honest, one of the teams I would have loved to have seen in this match was Santana and Ortiz. I really wanted to see them in there, but I knew, you could see that the story was going to be Red Dragon and the Young Bucks. I would like to see Jurassic Express retain here, but I think even if they did retain, it is going to be more about Red Dragon and the Young Bucks. So if that's going to be the focus, then I guess the titles need to go on one of them. I think Red Dragon is probably a smarter move because then you're not, going to provoke the sort of arguments of, there's the EVPs, get the tag titles back. So I think Red Dragon are going to win, which is a shame for Jurassic Express, but if they're not going to be positioned as the top team, then that is what it is.
Do you think you talked about the EVPs? As wrestling fans, we've had in our minds these EVPs are the end all be all, right? But there was no problem with Kenny Omega as champion. I think that worked very well. I did not mind the Young Bucks being champions, and I mean, Lord knows, that other guy with the blonde hair, he just, he left. So clearly, it's not that you're just handing yourself things and taking the world for yourself. So do you think that's still kind of an issue of if the Bucks are champions? I mean, they're the Young Bucks. Like they kind of speak for themselves of who they are. Do you feel, and especially because of them being heels at this point, do you think that that's still an issue with fans?
It's not an issue for me. I know
it's not for you, but for fans in general.
Yeah. I think when you're an EVP, you're always going to have a level of criticism if you're on top. But I think it's all about, Kenny Omega is a good example. He was an EVP, but he deserved to be the world champion. I think the Young Bucks, they're good. I think them and Red Dragon will be a fun feud. I would just prefer to see the titles on Red Dragon because they've just come in. They've got a little bit of momentum, and that's the program we're clearly gearing towards. So why not have them be the champs first, then go to the Young Bucks? But I think if they put the title on the Bucks, they're one of the best teams in the world, so I don't think people are going to complain.
And Alex, what are you thinking here? What's happening here? Is Jurassic Express, are they getting any love in this match or no?
Well, I mean, the two main stories that spring to mind in this whole scenario is, of course, Red Dragon and Young Bucks. We've all seen that unfolding, and the reason to put them in this match is pretty much just that their story is existing. So you jettison it into a title match, presumably to put it on one of them, and it would make more sense for Red Dragon. I would have liked to have seen Santana and Ortiz in the match as well, especially because the driving story has been, you haven't helped us get to the title matches, Chris Jericho, or we could have done this, we could have done that, and they're still not doing it. So that would have been quite cool to see them arrive in a title match. Mm-hmm. But alas, the other story in play, of course, is that I think eventually Christian is going to screw Jungle Boy Jack Perry. And when that does happen...
It has to happen, right?
It has to happen at some
I've been
stage.
Waiting for it every single week. I've been waiting for it to happen.
We're clutching at straws. Like Christian will raise an eyebrow in an interview, and we're like, "See, there it is. It's coming. It's coming." That's the other thing. Like, when is that going to happen? Is he perhaps going to contribute to them losing the titles here at Revolution, and that will kind of get the ball rolling and some tension? I don't know, but it has to happen soon. Well, and I just don't see the Jungle Express as like long-term champion. So I would say Red Dragon is the educated choice.
So Jungle Boy.
Can we just take a second to appreciate how hard it is to remember to say Jurassic Express?
Oh God,
like you always want to say Jurassic Park.
Yeah,
you always want it's the jungle, the Jurassic. It
is very difficult. I will be honest. There have been times where I've been doing like a voiceover for a Fight in 60 or something, and I'm like, "Yeah, the Jurassic Park will face," and I'm like, "Nope, got to do that again." It has happened. It's definitely.
Josh, I've never seen you make a mistake. Never.
It's because I'm a really good editor. So anything you're referencing right now, I don't even know what you're talking about because no one will ever see it. They'll never see it. No, I think it's a great point though. With as far as Christian, I think he is eventually him and Jungle Boy have got to go head to head. I think Jungle Boy, everybody knows he's the future of this company. He's a future, not necessarily the future, but he's going to be a big deal. And I think it's just a matter of time before that feud happens and Christian's able to elevate him. And I think part of why maybe we're sitting through this going, okay, this feels like when is it going to happen? When's it going to happen? It's not going to mean anything if Christian had been with him for 2 weeks, So the fact that we are really believing at the very least that Jungle Boy believes in this relationship with Christian, there's something to it. I think at this point, I think we just have to talk about Chris Jericho and Eddie Kingston. And we'll go back to you, Stephanie. But I think a lot of what we've talked about I think the Inner Circle is coming to an end. I think we are going to see Santana and Ortiz siding with Eddie Kingston. I'm not sure if we're going to see Jericho going too far. Maybe the match is over and he's continuing to, beat the hell out of Eddie Kingston and he's snapped. And that's when we see Eddie Kingston, Santana, and Ortiz as your baby faces, and Jericho as your heel. Or have we been teasing that a little bit of Jericho maybe being the heel in this scenario because they're all going to turn on Jericho? I'm not sure, but I see this being the end of that. What are your thoughts on this? And there was another point I think we had made that we were going to bring up about the Jericho match, so I don't know, maybe you'll get to that. But I do think this is going to be the end of the Inner Circle. But Stephanie, what do you think is going to happen?
Well, I'm very over-invested in the Inner Circle, as Alex knows from all the weeks we used to talk about this together. So it looks like the end is now, but it's interesting. I wanted them to stay together, and now that it's happening, that the breakup is going on. Firstly, how I wanted them to break up was actually I wanted them to have some kind of massive, angry, short burst feud with a match, kind of like what we saw with when Jericho was pinned by Santana. But then in the end, I wanted them to be like, okay, we've got that out of our system. Let's leave as friends. Mm-hmm. But what seems to have happened, Santana and Ortiz absolutely should have been winning the tag titles at Revolution. That's it. And
that's
when
the point.
When I said this, people have said, don't worry, they'll win them at Double or Nothing. And I just feel right. But when we've all gotten over this Inner Circle thing, or time I felt was now, because to me, then Jericho's correct. They can't, he was not holding them back. Santana pinned Jericho and then got chucked out of a battle royal.
Right.
The next week. So I don't understand that,
I'm sorry. Continue.
I just feel like Santana and Ortiz, they were being held back by being in this Inner Circle, yes. But in storyline wise, it's no, because actually when you were with Jericho in the Inner Circle, you were getting on pay-per-view. Mm-hmm. You weren't, which is not what's happening to them this time around. And then Sammy, yes, he was being held back as well, but now he's in a match with two guys I'm not really sure that he knows very well. When at least when he was in the Inner Circle and he had to do multi-man matches, he was with his best friends that he has matching outfits with. And that I just feel like if the breakup was going to happen, I think the way to do it was to be for the other guys to show Jericho, yeah, we don't need you, but I kind of now feel like they do need him.
So
really, but
yeah. First of all, though, if we learned anything from CM Punk teaming with Sting and Darby Allin, Sammy Guevara may have a matching outfit or at least face paint going into this. And
it may be coming. Well, yes. It better be, because if he's not coordinating with them, then I won't believe this friendship at all, because how long did he wear that Inner Circle vest for? As soon as he was given that, he hung on to that, because his friends made it for him. So he better get some good outfit here with this.
At least a friendship bracelet or something out of this.
Yeah, something.
I think with... As far as that was the point that I had wanted to touch on with the conversation of whether or not Santana and Ortiz should have won the title, should have been in the tag team title match at this event. And I feel like I don't think they should have, and I don't think they should have won because of the fact that I believe this is going to be the end of the Inner Circle. So it does, in their story, make sense if the first pay-per-view following this, or even just a Dynamite or a Rampage or something following this, that they finally get that opportunity and they become tag team champions and they can say, look, we did this without you, Chris Jericho. And whether as baby faces, we did this without you, Chris Jericho, or as heels where, Eddie Kingston is that extra assist that Jericho wasn't going to be. So I think there's a story still in there. I also think that could speak to, theoretically, the idea of Jurassic Express It took me a second. I had to make sure I said it right. Jurassic Express holding on to the titles in order to drop them to Santana and Ortiz while the Young Bucks and Red Dragon continue on down their own path. Thoughts on?
I see your point, but I feel like they've had an opportunity now 2 weeks in a row. So even if they win the tag titles in 2 weeks and 3 weeks and 4 weeks and 6 weeks, and they come back to Jericho and say, "Hey, we've won the titles now. We got the opportunity. We did it." If I was him, I'd say, "Well, actually, you got the opportunity 2 weeks in a row before Revolution.
Yeah, but you
didn't manage anything." Yeah. So I don't see how any of this concerns me anymore.
Hey, getting pinned and getting thrown over the top rope are two very different things, you know? So it's...
I feel like a guy that was able to pin Chris Jericho should have been able to hold on to a top rope and not get thrown out.
But maybe that's his only weakness. His only weakness is the grip on the rope. Kenny, what are you thinking as far as this Jericho and Eddie Kingston?
I thought the promo they did set up was phenomenal. I thought the clash of styles was great. You know, Jericho is Mr. Sports Entertainment. Eddie Kingston is Mr. Anti-Sports Entertainment. It works perfectly. I think the thing about the Inner Circle, because as wrestling fans and as people who cover it, we talk about all of it. We talk about the minutiae. We constantly think about how we would like to see things play out. And I think because the Inner Circle were, at the beginning of Dynamite, they were the best part of the show. You know, there was the celebrations when Jericho won the title. There's Ted Irvin coming out of a big gift box. There's all this stuff. They were the best part of the show. And this does feel like a damp whimper for them to go out on compared to how great a faction they were. You know, they were such a good faction. And I think that's sometimes difficult when you have something that's so good for so long and then towards the end, to Alex's point earlier, you know, maybe Blood and Guts should have been the end of the Inner Circle because at least they were still riding high the whole time. So I think the match is going to be good. I do think Santana and Ortiz are going to side with Eddie Kingston. I think that would be better for them. Will Jake Hager show up? Who knows? It's just nobody knows when he's going to be there, when he's not. But I think hopefully this is the night where Eddie gets his big win because Eddie's always the guy putting people over. So, you know, I think Santana and Ortiz helping him. It's a really dramatic moment. Good way. And I think Jericho can take the loss.
Oh, absolutely. At this point in his career, he absolutely can.
Yeah.
Eddie has to win this. I know I didn't mention Eddie at all when I was talking, but Eddie has to win.
Yeah, I agree with that. Alex, do you agree Eddie Kingston has to win this match?
Yeah, I mean, like Kenny just said, he's been, you know, perpetually putting everyone over in AEW since he came in. And I understand why, because Eddie's not the kind of guy that needs victories, really. But if you want him to be a top player, then he would have to win this one. My only problem is, are they really going to move him into being a top player after this? Like, when you look at how congested it is up there, I don't really see a big title run in Eddie Kingston's future, no matter how much I'd personally relish seeing him do more and be more. But it's hard to see where he would figure in. What's his launch pad from a victory over Chris Jericho? I can't really map it out.
I have an idea. Ring of Honor.
Does he need a victory to go and do that?
Maybe an Eddie Kingston could become a main eventer in Ring of Honor and have his role there and play his role there at the very top while being where he is here in AEW. It's just an idea.
He could. Yeah, I mean, I guess the only person who doesn't need Jericho definitely doesn't need wins at this point. Like, his legendary status is well cemented. The only issue with not the last run Jericho had in WWE, but maybe like the few years before that, you just knew he was putting people over. Right. And I feel like there was a phase where that got a bit stale, where it was like, he came back to work Punk, for instance. It was okay, it's entertaining, but he's putting him over. And there was a few feuds like that until he did pick up like US title and stuff like that. But anyway, in AEW, I think for Jericho moving out of this, he's pretty much, if the Inner Circle is in its dying embers, and I firmly believe it is in the winter, then he's really going to move into, don't shoot me for saying this, the Cody Rhodes role, where he's going to not like Cody, but he's going to start working with people that he just wants to work with and help. And don't get me wrong, he's still got matches there if he wants them. Like an Adam Cole, for instance, could benefit greatly from a Chris Jericho feud. You know, there are top feuds for Jericho. But I don't know if I envisage him winning the title again or, you know, taking those top spots. The landscape from when he's joined AEW to now is actually incredibly different, right? Yeah. At the top of the card. So while I'm not saying, you know, Jericho has a ton of value to bring to the table, if he loses to Eddie Kingston, if he wins, I honestly don't know exactly where he goes. But for the story, Kingston could do with the big victory and the handshake after.
And speaking of handshakes, we've got Bryan Danielson versus Jon Moxley in this. I'm not sure if we'd call it a grudge match as much as it's kind of like, hey, we're going to fight it out to see whether or not we're going to get on the same page type deal. Stephanie, what are you expecting? Other than, to me, I just assume this is going to be a great match. But what are you expecting to come out of this match?
I love this so much. I'm expecting Moxley to win this match and Bryan to basically be like, you have definitely shown me violence, and those two actually making this faction. Like, I think we're getting this Moxley Danielson Young Boys faction, because I don't think you can say something that's that cool an idea and not do it,
and then not do it right.
And it's so great. The way they've set this up of Moxley not accepting the offer, not declining it, and basically said, I want to fight you first. And that's really, really cool. And I love how Bryan has been as a heel. He's an amazing babyface. And every time he turns heel, people say, Bryan Danielson a heel? Really? Why would you book that? He's so popular. And then he just is so great at it. And I just love, after every match, him asking, you know, has Daniel Garcia shown enough violence? Like, it's just so cool. So, you know, if Hook is the coolest wrestler, this is the coolest match. I think it's going to be awesome.
And who's so who's winning? Who is your pick?
Moxley. I think Moxley has to win to like outdo Bryan, and Bryan will get him to form this group, though.
Kenny, what do you think? Who's winning this match?
I'm going to go with the opposite, but for the same reason. I think Bryan Danielson is going to get the win here, and that will make Jon Moxley respect him respect him into having the partnership. I think, you know, Danielson did the job for Hangman Adam Page. I think this is going to be his win here. I think we're going to get the team as well. So, you know, the Young Bucks will have to maybe step aside for a tag title feud at some point, because we might have Moxley and Danielson to contend with. But yeah, this is going to be an intense match. I think it's going to be violent, but I think sometimes Moxley's matches, they go so violent that some people love it or hate it because it's so violent. But I think Danielson is just pure magic, and he gets the best out of everybody. So this would not surprise me if this was Moxley's best AEW match ever with Danielson.
How much blood are we seeing on this show? I feel like there's going to be a lot.
3 match minimum.
All right, Alex, what are your thoughts on this match? Who is winning and why?
I mean, you just said it. One thing we do know from this match is that there will be blood. You know, it's going to be a brutal affair, but I'm inclined to side with Kenny. I feel like if you're going to entice Moxley into the partnership, then you need to beat him, I guess, to get the respect. You know, and Moxley, I guess, you know, he said it was all about bleeding with each other. So maybe the result won't be as important as the contents of the match. Yeah. But I do agree that you can't have an idea this great and not go through with it, because it would be a game changer in my opinion. I said this earlier. There's not a story in wrestling right now that I'm excited about as much as this, because the potential and the possibilities with Moxley and Danielson, and then you got this young crop of talent that they've been working with, Lee Moriarty, Daniel Garcia. Mm-hmm. You put all that together, you know, and even when the breakup happens down the road, but there are so many possibilities that would just be such magic. And it'd be a new, fresh coat of paint for Moxley as well, to be honest. So, yeah, I think it's going to be an amazing match. It's the one I'm looking forward to the most, without question. Really? I'm going to go Danielson, but I don't know.
It's tough, and that's what I think makes it so exciting. Honestly, like, you know, we as wrestling fans, we don't want predictability. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you want it to go in the way, like when you watch a movie, you want the story to go in the way that you would like it to. But there's some matches like this, like that's half of why I'm tuning in is because I want to just see the great match they're going to have. The other half is because I genuinely don't know where this is going to go and who's going to win. And that makes me hang on every single pinfall. And I'm excited for it. So
that's the thing, though.
Yeah,
like you said, sorry, with predictability, like you want your outcome that you want, but you don't want to be able to telegraph it all, right? Like that's often been the problem with, I don't know, WWE Royal Rumble winners, for instance. This person's going to win it because it's going to take us here. That's the good thing with AEW. Like, I'm sure within these matches, they're going to take us where we need to get to, because that's what I said earlier. The stories that they lay in, that's where the money's at.
Except for big money, Matt. So here's a match where there isn't going to be a pinfall. The Face of the Revolution ladder match for a future AEW TNT Championship match, an opportunity. So, man, this is a card that I feel like a couple of weeks ago we wouldn't have expected this name on here. Keith Lee versus Orange Cassidy versus Powerhouse Hobbs versus Ricky Starks versus Wardlow versus Christian Cage versus Ethan Page. Lots of big heavy hitters in this ladder match. But Stephanie, we'll start with you. Obviously, just for time purposes, we won't go through every single person, but let's just try and get a pick here and any highlight that you expect from it. Who do you think is going to walk out victorious?
I was really torn between Keith Lee and Wardlow, because Keith Lee, you want him to make a big impact, coming into AEW, so this would be great. But then Wardlow, especially with what we saw on Dynamite, MJF slapped that man.
Yep.
And I feel like him actually winning something for himself, whatever it is that is stopping him from actually turning on MJF, him getting that little victory for himself, him being able to, say, I did this alone, will give him whatever he needs to turn on MJF. And I think that's a story that probably needs to be told post-Revolution, post-MJF's match. So I think that will give two people a good direction if Wardlow wins.
I think as far as Keith Lee, I think there's that opportunity for him and Powerhouse Hobbs to continue, because they've got a little, and it's Hobbs and also Ricky Starks, but to kind of continue that, I could see that continuing out of this, and Wardlow picking up the victory here. Kenny, who's your pick? Kenny, I can't hear you. You gotta speak up. Obviously, you're just muted, but
see, when you mute yourself to have a cough and you forget, and you're just like, so Keith Lee and Wardlow are the two people who it's definitely going to be between. But I think ultimately Wardlow's going to be the one to take it, because there's more story there. There's more story if he wins. What happens with MJF? So I think that's going to be what happens. But I think Keith Lee will have a very impressive performance in this match that people will be talking about.
And Alex, your thoughts?
Nearly identical to yours, Josh. I feel like the built-in story that we've seen, well, not built-in story, but the interactions the past couple of weeks with Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Hobbs against Keith Lee, that'll be what his main story is coming out of this ladder match. And Wardlow is just the hot hand. His crowd reactions, considering who he associates with, are extreme. They're great.
Yeah. Oh, he's the guy.
He's the guy. He's gonna. I mean, again, I said earlier, me and Steph have been saying for a long time, he is gonna be like one of the main guys in AEW when they pull that trigger. And I feel like this is great timing. I really do.
So let's take a look at, we've got believe it or not, 3 matches left on this card. We've gone almost an hour and a half talking about this on a show that is normally 30 minutes long. And I'm loving every second of it. So I thank all of you for being on here. And I thank all of you for continuing to listen to us. And I hope you're enjoying this conversation about it, because it's just getting me more and more excited. Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, against Thunder Rosa for the Women's Championship. Let's go with a winner. Is Thunder Rosa taking this title off of Dr. Britt Baker, or is Baker going to continue to be champion? Stephanie, let's start with you.
I think Thunder Rosa is taking this title off Britt Baker. I think it makes sense. Britt's reign has been awesome, but I do think that the title coming off her will open up the women's division a bit more, that we'll see more faces actually kind of getting a chance, because every challenger we've seen come up against Britt, it's always been, but they don't have a chance of winning, like Ty Conte at Full Gear. So I think especially with the stuff going on with Jamie Hayter as well, I just feel like it's time for Britt to lose the title. Thunder Rosa is the perfect person. Britt was made by Thunder Rosa in their amazing Lights Out match. The only criticism I can say of this is, yes, this is the match that we all want it to happen. But I think that in the build to this, they kind of threw in the whole Mercedes Martinez being hired to stop Thunder Rosa winning the TBS championship. But why would that matter to Britt? Because surely you'd rather have her in that box if you don't want to face her. I think that was thrown in as an afterthought for no reason, because basically all they wanted to do was say, guys, remember Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa had a feud? Well, we're bringing that back now, because that is what we all wanted, but they just found a way to get there that didn't really make sense. But
simplicity
whatever, I'm glad
of it would have worked. Yeah, I understand. So you're going with Thunder Rosa, Kenny?
Yeah.
Britt Baker or Thunder Rosa?
I'm actually going to go with Britt Baker here. I think what's going to happen is Britt's going to win this one, which is going to tie them, which means they both beat each other once, and then we'll get the rubber match at Double or Nothing, and that's where Thunder Rosa will lift the title. My hope is that between Revolution and Double or Nothing, they sort of tell us a story of how Britt Baker's done everything she can to avoid having to have a match with Thunder Rosa. I think that's something that wasn't really as much in the bills. I would like to have seen it, that, she's done everything she can to not face the women who beat her. And then, maybe there's some interference at Revolution from Jamie Hayter or Rebel, and that's what, allows Britt to get the win. But I think the story will be better if there's kind of a journey to Thunder Rosa winning it. I think Britt's had such a big title reign that you want to end it on something that really means something.
Personally, I agree with what you're saying there. So, Alex, tiebreaker.
Yeah, I mean, I think Britt retains as well. The only reason I believe that, I thought all along, it's either Jade Cargill, like you wait for eventually when she's ready to take it off Britt, or it's Thunder Rosa. Always thought that. It doesn't feel nearly as they haven't got as much steam as I would like for a title change, right? And I think Stephanie touched on that with where they've gone with the story. It's not as hot as it could be. That I'd like to see when someone dethrones Britt Baker. It should be a major moment, right? And I think there's more chance of that if Kenny's right. And this is like the equalizer, even though the first one isn't officially a match, but you know what I mean. And then you go to Double or Nothing, and then Thunder Rosa with a bit more of a concentrated build to their history. Then she wins it. I think that would be better for her, better for everyone if they did that. If Thunder does win, great, right? Like I won't have no problem with it. Her being the champion will be a lot of fun and not a bad decision at all. I think it would mean more for her if they actually gave her a better build towards it, because it just doesn't feel the way it felt when they met the first time. I don't know if that's fair to say or not, but that's just kind of how I feel.
Well, a match that certainly has a build to it. CM Punk versus MJF in a dog collar match. This personally is the one I'm most looking forward to. Not necessarily even the bell to bell, but I'm just so invested in this story now. Stephanie, we'll start with you. Aside from buckets of blood, what do you think we can expect from this match? And who is going to be victorious? I have some thoughts in mind. So let's
this is the one I'm most excited for. Absolutely. The storytelling in this has been amazing. The promos have been amazing. What happened on Dynamite was one of the most brutal things I've ever witnessed live at a wrestling show. It was truly horrifying to see what happened to Punk. And I think it was completely necessary because MJF the week before had done such an emotional promo that really touched so many people. And I think the only way to get out of that was to have him do something truly awful. And that image of Punk covered in blood with the chain around his neck was awful. But like Daniel Bryan, I love violence a lot, and I love blood, and I love extreme. I love anything close to a death match. So these two having a dog collar match, I think it's going to be brutal, and I'm going to love it. I hope I'm close enough that some blood lands on me, and I'm really looking forward to it. And I just give me all the gore. I'm clearly not friends with Dave Meltzer because I'm a woman that loves blood and guts.
Yeah, I'm not friends with Dave Meltzer because he's a. So yeah, no, you were saying.
We're gonna say chauvinist.
There are a lot of things I could say, but yeah, we'll go with that. I'm impartial.
Me too. Anyway, this match is gonna be amazing. The build has been amazing, and I think that I have a feeling MJF's gonna win again. I think he's gonna beat Punk again, and I think that. I don't know how that will settle with me, but I think that's what's going to happen. I think Punk is really willing to put this kid over, as he should be.
I think, just to give my opinion, then we'll go to Kenny here. I think that the chance of MJF winning is strong, but I also think that if we are moving on to a different story, and it looks like we are just headed towards this Wardlow MJF feud, I think there's a possibility that he's been doing a whole lot of that, putting out the hand, and there comes Wardlow to put the ring on. I could see Wardlow just choosing not to. Maybe Wardlow wins the ladder match and finally has that opportunity to step out on his own, and now he's looking at this going, you know what? I've got my career to think about. I'm headed this direction. Screw this MJF guy. I'm not giving him the ring. You want the ring? Here, go take it. Tosses it in the ring. Maybe CM Punk uses the ring, so MJF can continue that story of, I've never been beaten clean in the middle of so there's a lot we can do with that. So I'm not really sure either way, but I do think whatever it is, I think CM Punk is putting him over, whether that means in a CM Punk losing the match. I'm not sure, but man, is Punk just the whole story has just been putting MJF over. Kenny, what are your thoughts in this match? Do you want someone to spill blood on you as well? Are you?
I don't have a blood kink. I need to be honest with you. I'm more like a biscuit and glass of juice before bed kind of kink. But look, everybody's got a thing.
So just to be clear for those, because it's been about an hour and a half, so people might have, I just want to be clear. Twinks, I believe it was, not your thing. Anymore. And blood kinks, not your thing.
No.
Okay, so we're good. I just want to make
both my things.
If you're watching this though, and you're not a twink and you don't like blood, get in touch. Man, let me know. Well, I'm sure my other half will be.
Welcome to Fight and Focus After Dark, folks. Come for the revolution. Stay for
I'm with you, Josh. I actually think CM Punk is going to win in the way that you've said. I think it's going to be a case of Wardlow's going to come out. He's going to, whether it's he just doesn't hand MJF the ring, or there's going to be something where Wardlow does not fulfill his commitment, which lets Punk get the win. I think that's what's going to happen. But I think, because it's funny because I think that what AEW can do here is satisfy sort of Stephanie and me in the same vein by giving her enough of the violence that she wants, but not giving me too much violence that I'm turned off. Do you know what I mean? Because I remember being, I think it was Full Gear 2019 where it was Moxley and Omega had the lights out match.
Yeah.
If I'm remembering
the exploding ring death match.
Well, no, this was the first one. Where they just
the first one. Okay. Yeah.
And for me, it was just a bit much. It just wasn't my thing. But I think the dog collar allows them to be probably as brutal as Stephanie would like them to be, but also in a way that kind of I can deal with a little bit more because I'm a wuss. So I think that I think this is going to be the match that everyone's talking about coming out of the show. I think this is the one, and this is the one I'm looking forward to the most.
Alex, you had said that you were looking forward to a different match the most. I believe it was Moxley and Bryan Danielson. But I'm sure this is up there. What are your thoughts on this? Do you and
do you
can you give us an opinion on twinks and blood kinks? Can you weigh in?
I enjoy chaos. I don't know if I would call it a kink, but sure. I'm partial to it. I dabble. Yeah, I mean, I'm pumped for this match, of course. I'm more inclined to agree with Steph. I think one of the things they said right at the beginning of this feud was that whoever kind of came out on top was going to be onto the world title after. Mm-hmm. I've long thought that Hangman was going to dethrone Kenny, MJF will dethrone Hangman at some stage, and Wardlow will dethrone MJF. That's my path. The only thing that doesn't really line up with that, I guess, would be Wardlow winning the ladder match. But still, I do think that Kenny is right as well. Wardlow will probably cost MJF within this match, and there'll be some shenanigans. But I think MJF's going to get the big victory. I think Punk wants to put him over, and I think he's the one who has to move on to that world title next. You know, Punk you could do it whenever, I guess, right? But I think MJF, his time is this year, without a doubt. And I think this will be the match that would springboard him there. So it makes all the sense to me that he gets the decisive victory. He's going to pay for it. He will bleed for it, but without a doubt, I think just storyline-wise, it would make more sense for him to be the victor and go on to the world title.
Well, it remains to be seen this Sunday. What's that?
I just also want to add to what Alex is saying, that if MJF does go for the world title this year, I want us to all band together. Maybe we do a Kickstarter and we fix the tan on MJF's hands. Can we fix it?
Just a little lotion or something on the palms. That's all he needs to kind of...
You got to spread that a little bit more evenly. I mean, Stephanie, surely there's a better way. What is he doing?
I would advise him to take a makeup brush to do the hand part, like a foundation brush, and really like get in between the fingers and just like spread that evenly, maybe even a beauty blender. Like, just don't use the mitt that you've used on your arms, on your hands, Max. That's all I'd say.
I am no pro in this discussion. I mean, I would get sunburn in a coffin, but I will take your word for it, Steph.
Wow. All right.
You feel like Ross and Friends, Alex.
Yeah, right? That's what's happening. He just keeps turning at the wrong time. So, all right. We're finally here. The main event. The AEW World Champion, Hangman Adam Page, defending against Adam Cole, Bay. Who's winning? Who's walking out champion? Stephanie, we're going to start with you. Who is going to walk out the AEW World Champion?
Well, I have to follow on from what the boys were just saying. I think it's Adam Page, and I think it's Adam Page exactly what Kenny and Alex both said. Adam Page is so nice, and he's so endearing, and he's so lovable, and maybe that's why sometimes he hasn't hit as hard as a champion, I think, because he's kind of that quite mild-mannered guy, and he needs to be dethroned by someone that's a right bastard, and that's MJF. And I think that's who we have to wait for. It's great that Adam Cole's got the title shot. Orange Cassidy thing makes no sense whatsoever. As much as I wouldn't like them to involve Orange Cassidy in this match, if he did have a cameo, I'd be like, maybe they're going to tie in why Adam Cole lost Orange Cassidy. That is just like the weirdest footnote in when people in 30 years time discuss this pay-per-view. The weird footnote trivia thing will be, did you know that Adam Cole lost to Orange Cassidy a few weeks before this pay-per-view for no reason, but it didn't even count on his record? And everyone will be like, what? Who? But yeah, I think it's Adam Page. He's winning.
Kenny, what do you think? Hangman holding on to the title?
There is more chance of Psycho Sid confronting Jade Cargill than Adam Cole walking out with the AEW Championship. I mean, can I just say though, when Adam Cole used to have the 45-minute matches in TakeOver, it aged me. It aged me years every time he had one of those matches. But in AEW, he's not done it. He's shown a little bit more restraint. He's had 25-minute matches, and I think this will be a 25 to 30. I think it'll be really good. A big win for Hangman. And, is it the biggest match on the card? No. But I think for Hangman, I get what Stephanie's saying about not every time the world title should be the main event. But I think if you were to put Page and Cole on in the middle, it maybe makes the world title feel like a mid-card thing. And I think it's probably better to put them on top. It might not make the pay-per-view go off with massive fireworks, but at the same time, I still think having Page at the end will be a good thing to leave people with.
The last pay-per-view ended with, was that no, that couldn't have been. Was that it, the last pay-per-view with Bryan Danielson and Adam Cole?
No, it was Hangman winning.
Hangman winning was the last one, right? The one before. Okay, the one before that.
Yeah.
Are you expecting any surprises? You think the show, I mean, it's ending with this match that is not the biggest match on the card. Do you think maybe there can be something else after the match?
Maybe MJF attacks Page. I mean, maybe that happens. I don't know if they would do that straight away. But I mean, if they want to do something that's not just going to be Page wins, that's the only other thing I can think of.
So, Alex, this is it. It's all come down to this. Who's walking out champion?
I mean, unless Kenny Omega returns at the end, but I don't know how close that is to happening. But presumably he would want to pick back off with Hangman and Page when he does. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing with Hangman Page. Like, we're talking about how he's kind of a footnote against some of the stories that are on the card. But, he had the amazing story of Kenny to get him the belt. One of the best crafted stories in recent memory. He then goes into Bryan Danielson. Now has got, he had Lance Archer in the middle of that, but now Adam Cole. It's a pretty good resume, right? It's a pretty good way to start your way as world champion. But I just don't think Adam Cole, maybe the Orange Cassidy part of it, has played a part. I don't think he's red hot enough to dethrone Adam Page. So I think it's just another part of the resume for him at the moment. Keep the belt on him, keep it going strong. And like Steph said, it will be a dastardly heel that will take down the beloved Hangman Page at some point. And I don't think that is Adam Cole. And also Adam Cole's got a lot of other options, right? Within this kind of super elite storyline, Kenny being one of them when he returns at some point. This whole Red Dragon Young Bucks thing is going to involve him being in the middle of it. I don't think he needs to be the world champion yet. And I don't think he will be. So yeah, I think Hangman Page gets the victory.
Well, there you have it, everybody. I also think Hangman Page gets the victory. What a show this has been. This has been one of my favorite Fight and Focuses that I've ever been a part of. Quite the journey we had here. I think we all learned a little bit about ourselves and each other along the way. And now, if you're not ready, you might feel like you need a nap after this Fight and Focus before you sit down and watch the pay-per-view. But do not miss it. It comes to you live, 8 o'clock Eastern time this Sunday, March 6th. It's AEW Revolution on FITE, AEW Plus on FITE. Check your app. See if it is available on FITE in your market. Man, Stephanie, Kenny, Alex, thank you all so much for taking the time, really breaking this down with me, and I look forward to doing this with you guys again. Enjoy the show. I'm Josh Shernoff. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and we will see you Sunday, March 6th, 8 o'clock Eastern time, right here